we've been running this seminar, so we've had a couple of these sort of meetings, but they've been face to face. So this is the first time, and we did last year have a teleconference hookup, and that went pretty okay. But we're hoping that this might be even better, so that the people that are at the other end can actually see what's happening and what we're doing. As Craig did at the start with the little poll, it's good to see that we have got a mix of certified operators. We've got some representatives from employers that actually employ certified operators, and we've also got a number of interested parties. So some of those people are people that are working towards certification, and some are ones that are managing the process for others. So welcome to everybody. The key focus of today, and I wanted to point it out from the word go, is it is about recertification. So we're not going to go into the detail about the actual certification process itself. We're hoping that the majority of people understand that. If anybody has got any queries about the certification process, certainly feel free to contact Kathy or myself, and we'll be able to work through that with any individual. So the focus of today is about recertification. So that's where we're about to head. And as Craig mentioned at the start, Craig will be moderating the meeting a little bit. He'll be keeping his eye on the chat page and noting any questions that are coming through. So we understand people on the other end haven't got voice access to the webinar. So if you do have a question at any time, just use the little chat facility, pass it through, and we'll do our best to address them as we go. So we've got a bit of a PowerPoint presentation that I'll run through. So basically, it's about everything to do with certification, the current status. So we'll get into it. There's a bit of a timeline here. I'm not going to go right into detail on that, but you can see that the certification process started in Victoria going all the way back to 2007 when we did our initial discussions and investigation into it. So it's been in and around the industry now for at least 10 years. So the positive thing is, as you can see by the far end, that we've now got water treatment operators, we've got wastewater operators, and we've got recycled water capability to certify different people. So we've got a few slides that point out some of that info as we go, and I should point out that there are actually still two schemes. There is a Victorian scheme, and I know that's controlled by the Victorian Department of Health and Human Services as well as Vic Water, and we're working with those two organisations, potentially with the aim of having them roll into the national process as well. But just to keep in mind for people that there are actually still two schemes in operation. Won't go into all the detail there. It's sitting on the screen, but WIOA is the certifying body for operators in Victoria and has been since 2011. There is a framework on the WIOA website as well. In terms of the water treatment side, the history there was that the National Water Commission commissioned the development of the initial framework back in 2012 and 2013. A number of trials were set up, or two trials were set up, one in Victoria and one in Queensland, to actually trial the implementation of that program. With the demise of NWC, the Water Industry Skills Task Force, or the WIST, took over ownership of the framework in 2013 and has actually undertaken some updates of that. And again, you'll see the document just there. WIOA has been appointed the certifying body for 5 years from 2016. That's for the water side. The other thing to point out is that there are two, as I mentioned, two schemes. One is the Victorian one and one is the national one, and there are some subtle differences between the two. Probably the main one to point out for today's webinar about recertification is that the national scheme has a 5-year certification period and a 15 continuing professional development point requirement, where the Victorian one is for a 3-year cycle, but again with that 15 points still. So probably that's the main thing we wanted to point out about the differences between the two. In terms of the wastewater and recycled water certification, so the framework was developed throughout 2016. There was an existing Queensland sewage treatment plant certification framework that had been developed a little bit earlier, and that's been rolled into the national framework. There were some industry consultations throughout 16 and 17, and it was actually adopted in June 2017, again with the WIST as the owner of the framework and with WIOA appointed as the certifying body for the next 5 years. Just to point out too that the WIOA CPD scheme has been adopted nationally as the recertification. Sorry, we're just finding out that we haven't quite got enough voice, so I'll get a bit closer to the microphone. The WIOA CPD scheme has been adopted under both frameworks, and it is actually the way that certified operators can maintain their certified status. Just to fill people in, some numbers. So with the national wastewater certification, we've got 7 certified operators. With the water side on the national, we've got 36, and in Victoria there's 69. But we are aware that there are a number of organisations, whether they be councils or water businesses, that are working down the path of getting all the training done for their operators so that they can get them certified at some point in the future, and we're looking forward to that happening. The other big piece of work that the WIST is working on is to really build those 2 different documents, or potentially 3 different schemes, into one combined certification framework. So a draft is being developed at the moment through Queensland Water as the Secretariat of the WIST. Obviously, WIOA has been involved in that. We've also had a look at how we can certify people across multiple streams. So whether that's water and wastewater, wastewater recycled water, or all 3 streams. And again, once we get that finalised through the WIST, we'll be able to let the industry know what's going on with that.
Thank you, Todd. We've just had a question from the Orange City Council team, and the question is WIOA the certifying body for sewage treatment plants?
The answer to that is yes. So that was organised in 2017, and in fact, if I go back to the previous slide, we have actually already certified 7 operators against that national framework in 2017. But yeah, 2017. So I'll just skip forward again. Hopefully that answered that question. So for those that are online, if you want to have a look at any of the information, our website contains all of the info that we're talking about at the moment. So you'll notice our brand new website. Forgotten how to run the pointer, but anyway, Craig, just to point at the, sorry, hassles with first webinars. So yeah, thanks, Craig. We've now got the pointer. So there's 3 sections on our website, one for the national water, one for the Victorian water, and then one for the wastewater and recycled water. And then as you click on those pages, it then opens up to the website that corresponds to each of those, or the section of the website that corresponds to each of those. If we track that through, if you go to the next slide, and one of the forms, so what we've now done is we've clicked into the national water certification page, and you'll notice that there's a range of menus across the top. What we've done is we've clicked on the forms part, which is the second last icon, and I wanted to point out down the very bottom where the recertification words are, there are 2 really important documents, and this is mainly to give people a way of being able to find these documents fairly easily. The top one is the WIOA CPD scheme, so the approved CPD activities, and then the second form is an Excel spreadsheet that can be used as a bit of a template for actually recording any information that people have completed training and completed development activities. So the next slide actually just shows you what that looks like, and it's set up in a similar structure to the way that the CPD scheme is laid out in the previous document. So again, if people are having trouble with any of, or finding any of that, just jump onto the website and have a look. I should mention as well that the CPD scheme is included or is embedded in each of the framework documents, although the wastewater version does not have the complete WIOA scheme in it at the moment. It's got a sort of sample activities. So what I wanted to do now is just spend a few minutes running through the actual recertification side of things and really unpack that document a little bit. And then before I do that, we're looking at the CPD scheme. It really, what's it all about? So it's about challenging operators to keep their skills current. We've done a lot of work with particularly some of the Victorian industries or Victorian businesses that have been involved in this for a couple of years. And we've worked out what we think is a pretty flexible program that should allow a variety of different ways of being able to meet the CPD requirements. And as you see there, there's different suite of formal and informal learning options. There's external and in-house options. And they're particularly for the more experienced operators that have done a lot of training or have run out of things that they can do, we do actually have ways of recognising their experience and certainly encouraging operators to be mentors and to get out and network. One of the things that I think has held some organisations up was the belief that it was going to be really expensive, and we've found that not necessarily to be the case, that we believe that the CPD scheme is broad enough that people can find a range of activities that suit their organisation and their operators and don't have to cost a lot of money. Kathy will actually talk about that a little bit later. We've certainly found through the evidence that's coming back from employers already that it's building a lot of career pathways and it does encourage the development of new skills. So that's kind of the overall pitch on why we think it's important. Just looking at it, the way the scheme is structured, so there's a number of different balls. There's 5 ranges of activities in there. I'll just touch on some of those quickly and also show you some of the documentation that we hope to receive out of all of this. So accredited training, doing more units from NWP. And as you can see, if you do a Cert 2, 3 or 4 unit, you get different points. And obviously we believe that due to the higher level nature of the Cert 4 units, people are going to pick up more points from there. The way we would expect to receive those extra training is through either a statement of attainment. So we've tried to identify this particular one, but you can see it's a statement of attainment for unit, I can kind of read it, 279. So there's another version as well, which is what they're calling a skills transcript. So it has to, or an academic transcript, has to come from an actual TAFE or RTO, has to be signed off by the RTO. And there's a question just come through, how many points for a diploma in water operations unit? I'd suggest it's probably going to be 5 as well. So hopefully that covers off. I couldn't see it attracting more than the 5. So anyway, back to the documentation here. This one is a really good example because it does actually show that it's come from, well, TAFE SA as the RTO. It is signed by the person from TAFE SA or education manager. So again, it ticks all the boxes from our side and it shows the units completed and the fact that they have been completed. So just moving along, there's some non-accredited training. This one is particularly important in Victoria where it is a compulsory part of the framework at the moment. So again, attending that particular style of training will pick up 3 points. There's a range of other non-accredited training, things that are not compulsory but are really important in the overall scheme of it. The first one is around things like refresher training. And again, Kathy will talk about what One and Water has done in this regard about using a combination of an RTO and on-site trainers to actually deliver some really good outcomes for their organisation. The sort of information we'd like to receive, and again, this one's come from One and Water. It's a sample document about their disinfection top-up training. So you can see there's a training record there. There's a list of table of contents. And we'd only need to receive this once, by the way. Once we've received it into our network and into our program, then we just say, oh, okay, if somebody's doing that particular disinfection course, we don't need all this information again. But this is how we would justify the fact that that's what's happening on the day. And then there is actually a certificate of completion issued through an RTO for this one. So this that would be a classic case of something that would pick up 4 points. It's all delivered as in-house training, and again, Kathy will talk about that fairly shortly. So there's a couple of other non-accredited things like the WIOA specialist workshops and seminars, and so, for example, the distribution seminar, a filters seminar, a coag flock. So we've got a range of those that have been running around the years from time to time. And there's also other courses, seminars or workshops. So things, for example, like the IWES training courses, those sort of opportunities. In terms of the conferences, which is the next one, so in the other activities, and there's probably two parts to, missed the button, there's two parts to this. Attending conferences and events, you'll notice, really only picks up 1 point up to a maximum of 4. So we do recognise if people go along to those sort of events, then there are opportunities there for them to develop and learn. So there are some caps on those. Again, there's a query just come through about how does the Office of Water training fit in with points. At the moment, my easy answer is it doesn't. We have an arrangement with the Office of Water about people that are certified that they'll recognise them, but the Office of Water, we haven't got an arrangement just yet. So again, we'll be working with them to see whether or not there is a way that their refreshers and their other training can be built into this program. So again, we'll take that point on notice and we'll work on that as we go along. Thanks, guys. Keep the questions coming. I'm sort of bumbling and stumbling between two screens. So, whoops, sorry, I jumped a bit. Just wanted to go. So the first thing about conferences that we just had up was really coming along and attending, and whether it's a WIOA conference or anybody else's, we don't mind. It's got to be relevant to the water industry, but it could be AWA, it could be local government, New South Wales, Queensland, anywhere you like, all of those sorts of things. The other one that's in there is about interest days and tours and those sort of events. So again, they've been run quite frequently around the country, a lot of them through the WIOA advisory committees, so they will attract some points. This one is the one that we did want to push a little bit, because what we're suggesting is that if an operator gets off their proverbial backside and has a bit of a go and presents a paper or does a poster, or gets a bit more involved in the industry, then clearly that's going to pick up some more certification points. They're getting themselves out of their comfort zone. They're researching, they're writing a paper, and they're actually delivering it. So I think that's a really important way of doing that. Some of the other ways are awards and recognition. So there are a number of prizes around. The WIOA prize, there's IWA awards, things like Churchill Fellowship. So they can pick up to 10 points if people do that, and it really depends on how involved the actual award and level of interaction is as to how many points they get. But we're not going to guarantee everybody's going to get 10 points just because they pick up one of those awards, but we'll certainly have a look at it. The other way of getting some points as well is to publish, and whether that's in the WIOA's Waterworks Journal, or I think AWA's journal is now called Current, but or any other industry recognised journal. So if people want to, again, write but it's got to be a technical journal. It shouldn't be a write-up about fixing up somebody's plant or going on a tour somewhere. It does have to be reasonably technical. But again, there's up to 5 points on offer for those activities. And the other one is rotations, exchanges, and secondments. And I know, for example, Veolia in Victoria has been doing this for a number of years with their operators working in other sites. So again, there's some different levels in amongst this particular one. If you're working with a similar treatment process to where you normally work and you're just helping out somebody, well, then it's a maximum of 3 points, 1 point a week. If you go there and you're actually learning a new process, or you're operating something different to what you normally operate at your own site, working under minimal supervision, then that's worth up to 6 points, but 2 points a week. And then the other one is to go and act as a trainer or mentor for other site operators, whether that be through exchange or secondment, then that can attract significantly more points. So a few ideas there, a few opportunities for organisations, and we all like to collaborate and share. So again, just some information or some evidence about this. This is just a example document that's come in about a study tour. So again, the Wine and Water guys have done a tour to Northeast Water. So that's the cover sheet. And I should mention all the forms that marry up to each of these components within the CPD scheme are sitting on the website as well. So each of these key activity areas has their own form. We're doing a bit of a review of those at the moment. I'm not sure whether they're all going to stay in their current format, but again, we'll let people know. But this is the agenda for the actual tour of Northeast Water, where the Northeast guys, sorry, the Wine and Water guys went. So again, on the back of that, and they've certainly listed down the bottom of that, and I'm not sure whether people can read it on your screen, whether it's quite good enough, but they've even gone to the effort of putting some anticipated learnings in at the bottom of it. So what their operators were expecting to get out of it. So it's not just a tour, it was really about going and trying to learn things. The next one was a workplace project, and I think the important part about this one, it really isn't meant to be business as usual stuff. So it really needs to be a very particular, a very defined sort of project. So, and it has, well, as it says, a significant workplace project. So we've got a couple of ideas there, like investigation and implementation of plant process improvements, or the top one is the analysis of performance of membranes in an RO plant. So in the bottom one, maybe just again to give people an example, it might be to look at the chemical dosing arrangements or do some sort of trials if you were looking at a different thing. From a wastewater side, it might be looking at some different aeration opportunities, or what happens if you run the plant in slightly different ways. So it's not just business as usual, it does have to be a significant change. To be able to get there, to get the 10 points or even to get any points, we've listed out the sort of stuff that, or information that WIOA would need to be able to make a ruling on each of those points. So you can see we're looking for the details of the project, the need for it, how the operator went about it, any work completed, and how much time, effort, expertise, and obviously the endorsement of the project by the suitably qualified person. We don't want somebody just writing all this up on their own.
We've got another question from Orange. Thanks, guys. And it relates to the dam safety training. So does dam safety courses attain points, George?
I would suggest if an operator, if a water treatment operator is also responsible for the dams, then yes, we would look at that. If they're not actually involved in water treatment, then I'd suggest that the dams side of it probably wouldn't be normally included. The other opportunity amongst all of this, and again looking for the future, maybe the whole dam operation side could become a stream itself within the certification. And the other one is that, looking at people like our network operators, for example, the people who look after the reticulation systems, where do they fit into this? So they're sort of works in progress and potential places to go for the future. So I'm nearly, in fact, I probably have used my allotted time, so I will get quickly into this last activity one, which is the exceptional activities. And they're really anything at all that doesn't fall into any of those previous categories. And again, it's points determined on a case-by-case basis. So, and again, for example, the completion of a tertiary qual, doing some mentoring and things like that for new or junior staff, and participating in a staff exchange rotation development program. So that one's probably already been picked up in one of the earlier ones, so maybe I haven't proofread this one too well. But anyway, there are some opportunities there for people to actually have a look at different things. What we don't want to do, we don't want to force the really experienced operators to have to just go off doing endless training courses. The whole intent behind the certification scheme is to get people to actually develop. And the way we believe they can develop is either develop other people, other operators, So that's where the mentoring and the training and passing the experience and skills on fits into all of this, or they actually do things themselves. So we want to try and encourage all the operators and all the businesses to look at how we can best keep operator skills current. Yeah,